Marcus, can I ask your opinion on Joe Biden introducing President Putin and Vice President Trump?
Oh, I mean, that's where like it's like where it was for he was insta-cooked. Yeah, so like that's more normal Biden than any of the other like, oh hey, he just like literally just trails off, doesn't know what the fuck he's saying, you know.
Right.
And that's kind of like the problem with hiding Biden. Is that if you don't get him out there and get people normalized about of the way that he fucks up talking,
you have to acclimate him like a house cat to like the other things.
Legitimately, yeah. This is like literally the problem with the problem.
This is going to startle you at first. You know, you might get a little scared, might get a little angry.
Yeah.
You'll socialize. You'll get used to it.
I mean,
he's actually quite docile. He's actually quite docile when he gets to know you.
It's true though. You know what I'm saying though, but they didn't do that. They did, you know, and that's the thing is like he obviously is like not only just like slowing down, but like he will lose his train of thought and just trail off. And like, that's a new thing. That's him being an old fucker.
Yeah, he
they're trying to avoid.
He hit it with the anyway like 100 times, right?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. And that's the worst part. When he starts a sentence, it goes, well, anyway, I shouldn't say it. That's actually the signal that this guy is losing it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Him saying, I mean, that's the problem though. The problem is he needs to be 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I was
like
say,
Joe Biden has never been that guy.
No.
So like that press conference, that was Joe Biden 10 out of 10.
But like this was like he was under such an intense microscope from the debate that like everybody was like, all right, Biden's going in public. Let's see if that was maybe a fluke. And then they just come out and be like, we got President Putin here. Bring out President Putin.
Putin. Oh, I mean,
I didn't see it live.
Yeah.
What did Zelensky do? Did he like laugh or was he like?
Yeah, he laughed off, and then like he was like, "I am better than Putin," and
everyone's like,
Wait, he didn't do it the Batman way where he's like, I am better than President Putin.
I mean, I don't know.
What did Kamala do?
She wasn't there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she
wasn't there.
She was, you know.
She was busy running the country because she's, you know, we know who's really doing it. No, but that's the problem. Like, that's the thing is that for Biden, as soon as the debate happened, it was already over.
Yeah.
Because that you can't stop that fucking ball.
No.
I'm literally gonna refer to it as an analogy that it feels like it's a downhill slide, almost like an avalanche, where it's picked up so much momentum at this point that it feels like that like no person can put their hands up to stop it. Like it's just gonna crush you.
Oh, well, that's what you're seeing now. You know, that's what's happening now is a certain, you know, part of the establishment trying to stop the ball from coming downhill, a certain part of the establishment, you know, kind of pushing the ball, but not really, you know, and that's where it is like they're not really pushing, they're more of just like right, giving a good blow behind, you know, go ahead. But that's it all makes it worse. This is like the issue where it's like as soon as the debate happened, they had to Biden step down. Kamala, you're it. Like, and to say this too, where it's just like, hey, Biden had a bad night, but he's actually fine, right? You still have him do a press conference and the interviews and all that shit because you need to show he can be president, right? But then you say, but obviously he had such a bad night, then we're just gonna move on now because this campaign needs to be 10 out of 10. So this, you know, like there could have been a whole lot of shit of like now NATO is this tandem Brandon Kamala thing where she's becoming president already in front of our eyes, right?
Yeah.
And you know the campaign can start kicking off with someone that's not an old fucker. But they didn't do that. So like you said, now you know, Pandora doesn't go back in the box. You know what I'm saying? She can't fit. She's out.
Go ahead.
Well, and so no matter what happens, it's a disaster.
What do you
Right.
think is the percentage? If you could give me like a percentage or like the odds, or like is it 50-50, 60-40, et cetera, of Biden being the presidential candidate? Like, will he step down or be somehow removed by some other means prior to?
At this point, I don't believe Joe Biden will step down for anything.
No.
So then you believe
So-
so you don't believe that he will be pressured or like, utilizing like the 25th Amendment I've been hearing about. So you're like,
Well, and this is where, like, when it comes to the 25th Amendment, like, it's not a one-person decision. The 25th
Right,
Amendment, is a mostly cabinet and multi-person.
that's what I'm saying.
decision.
It's like just through any type of like his own voluntary, like maybe through
No,
coercion, being convinced.
If there's anything that I'm more sure of than anything, especially today, is that Joe Biden himself, right? This is not capital influence.
Right.
This is not political power, saying it's got to be you. This is a personal decision by Joe Biden. And like, because coming from 2007 going to, or no. So going 2015, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obama says, Joe, you don't have to do this, right? And this is somewhere around like Bo dying, and the story comes out, hey, Biden's not running, even though he was vice president. He's been trying. He's not going to give it a chance because Bo died, and he's big sad. And then it's her turn, right? Hillary loses, and Joe Biden says to himself, the Democrats lost because they didn't listen to me.
Yeah. Oh my God. So he's just been stewing in this concept of like,
Now you see,
I could have saved it. I could have saved this whole thing. Now we got Donald fucking Trump. Guess what, Jack? You know what I mean? Guess what, Jack?
Yep.
Corn Pop's in the building, and he's a bad dude.
And the thing is, though, is that and then 2020, he was proven right.
Right.
So it's
and
not
he's
just
even
like,
more confident. Yeah.
exactly.
He's even more confident.
Now now it's a fact. Now it cannot be denied in his brain. He is the one, and he is an old fucker. So it's got this situation where it's not like you're just trying to get the keys away from Grandpa. Grandpa is sealed in a fucking tank.
Grandpa is sealed in the tank with a loaded handgun.
Well, I mean, well, that's where it's like
Grandpa.
This is
Grandpa's sealed in the tank, and when coming to the 25th Amendment, the only other people on the outside of the tank that can get Grandpa out are some of Grandpa's friends.
Right.
So you're gonna say you're gonna convince Grandpa's friends? Like, hey, Grandpa can't drive the tank. What the fuck you talking about? That's my dude. Right? And some of these cabinet people are like, people who literally made them. Is Pete Buttigieg gonna come out and say this guy is got to go?
Probably.
When do you think it actually happened? Because it had to have happened sometime between the 2020 debate and the 2020 and the recent debate we just had. Because I watched I just saw, because of all this, I saw clips of Biden from the 2020 debate, and he sounds, I don't know, several times, orders of magnitude better.
Yeah.
When was it that he hit the wall? It became almost untenable that no one could ignore it.
I have no idea, and I really don't. It'd be impossible to say. There's like some reporting that the kind of like COVID, that kind of like, I guess like some people had already seen it start to happen, and COVID kind of saved him from it being more of a prevalent thing on the first debate stage, and he's just more able to kind of like consistently do this stuff. I mean, so I'd have to assume, it's somewhere around that time that they're like not only saying, hey, COVID is dangerous, but also like recognizing like the potential for disaster the more you get this guy out there. And then they kind of just really rolled with it. Because like, especially too, once he is president starting, like once he already wins the election, that's when you actually need to go from hiding him to exposing the new gaffes, that like you need to start explaining away him he used to not trail off of the sentences, but now that's the same old Biden. Because like they're trying to do that, but it's too late. If they'd been doing, oh, hey, he kind of trails off, oh, forget it, never mind. If he's been doing that for the past 4 years, when he does it on the debate stage on Trump, it's just not going to be as shocking, especially to the elite. because that's where the thing is, like, America saw it, and also the donor class saw it for the first time, and that's a big
The
problem.
donors is a big thing. Like donors are pulling out their money, and that's the most like damaging thing of all.
But
That's like
this
the
is-
only thing they care about.
Right.
Well, this is the thing that makes me say, like, this is just Biden saying, no, fuck you, you're not taking my keys, is because the donors were the first people that they met after the debate. They were, as far as the campaign and like the Biden insiders, they met amongst themselves. They talked to the donors. Pelosi, Kamala Harris, the DNC heads, fucking, goddamn it, Hakeem Jeffries. He didn't talk to any of them until at least a week after the debate. 1 full week, he didn't talk to any of them. He only talked to the donors, and the donors said, Joe, it's time.
Mm.
And he's, from that day one, they said, we'll take some time to figure things out. They came up with a plan to run out the clock because the old man said, fuck you, you're not taking my keys. And here we are, 2.5 weeks past the debate. Every time he gets out there, I mean, he's doing a fucking, speech out in Detroit. No one's going to hear what he says. Everybody's just going to hear what he fucks up on.
Right.
And that's going to be the consistent thing the whole way through. Everybody that's saying Joe Biden stepped down, the Democrats that keep coming out and saying, hey, it's time to go, they're making campaign ads for the Republicans.
Can I ask one last question on this topic, and then we can move on? I don't mean to make you.
Oh, no. I mean, I'm happy to.
Okay. Then
I'm actually happy to actually have a conversation with somebody about it, and not just like me just yelling into a microphone.
Just monologuing it all. So my next question is, okay, so given that you've already stated that you're very, very confident that Joe Biden will be the one running, what are his chances versus Trump? I feel like we were already talking about, do you remember like months ago before the debate, we were already talking about how dog shit his numbers were. Like there was already writing on the wall that things were not looking great for him. Yeah. And then you have obviously the Gaza situation, which has probably offended quite a bit of the leftist moderates and progressives, at least some portion of them that were probably like, at least he's not Trump. Because I know like that's how I feel. Like if you would ask me in 2020, I would probably have advocated for like a harm reduction vote for Joe Biden because I thought that he would cause less damage than Donald Trump. And now after Gaza, I can't in good conscience even tell people that. I'm a convicted felon. I can't vote anyway. But if somebody asked me, I would.
I'm sure we can get you reinstated.
I'm gonna fucking go get a hey, listen here. I got no dog in this fight. I'm a convicted felon, so okay, don't yell at me.
I like throwing that out there. But there was a time in 2020 where I would have advocated for like a harm reduction vote, lesser of two evils for Joe Biden. But now, because of Gaza, I in good conscience can't even do that.
Yeah.
Actually, I have a two-part question for you, right? Let's say who you think will win. Who do you think is worse for the people of Palestine? Joe Biden or Donald Trump? And I ask this because I want to believe that Joe Biden is, it's hard to imagine anything worse than Joe Biden, but I believe Donald Trump has even postured that he would be even a more ardent supporter of for Israel. And also, if we, to evoke friend of the stream, Zachary Foster, I believe he did say a certain thing that if you want to help the people of Palestine, vote for Donald Trump. I don't think, I'll leave the context out of that, but I just want to ask you, who do you believe is a more damaging candidate for the people of Palestine, Joe Biden or Donald Trump?
All right, so I'm gonna go back to the first one. Who do I think will win first, and then who is better or worse? Who do I think will win? I have no idea. One more
thing I wanted to say about that, or who would win? It was already an incredibly close election back. It was like the 11th hour when they were counting.
It should have been.
Way closer. So if you imagine that it was that close, and then you add everything that's happened with Gaza, and now all of this cognitive decline type stuff, just also like general stuff. Like he's kind of been. I was looking at the Reuters polling data. He has been in a decline of approval rating since 2021.
Yeah. And this is where overall,
but I'm just saying all those factors, I can't imagine they've helped him. I can imagine they've only hurt him, and it was already a very close race between these two people. It's hard for me to imagine how he wins. So if you could, that's all I wanted to say on that one.
Well, yeah. So and this is where like just going from like the top level of like the whole administration and the declining numbers. This is a normal thing for most presidents. So if you start high and then over time you go low,
Reality
right?
sets in because
Exactly,
before it's all
right?
swagering and posturing and talking
Suddenly,
about how it's going to
you're
help.
not delivering on any of the things that you promised anyone.
Well, this is where, right? It's like it's kind of like a twofold thing where it's like it's kind of just believed to be this. This is just what happens in politics,
Mhm.
and I say like as someone who's like studied political science and like at uni, right? This is the conventional wisdom of these kind of things being just a natural aspect of it because there's no understanding of like if you deliver on good policy, people will respond in kind. They kind of just believe, no, you could start high and eventually you're going to go lower. The conventional wisdom of, oh no, the in midterm for the presidency, the House will always flip. It's just these belief that these things are happening, but it's because it's a response to inaction, and it's a response to well, inaction policy-wise, but also inaction of like keeping the grassroots, a sustainable organization throughout, presidential and midterm elections. But
Right.
that's a whole other story, right?
Uh-huh.
Going into Joe Biden, especially in the second half, right? This is where it is very insane that the numbers look the way they do because the Republicans have been in such disarray. Right now, as we're talking about a genocide being, done by a fucking sundowning old bastard, the thing that is so crazy is that before October 6th, the only real story was the fact that the Republicans ousted the Speaker of the House for the first time in fucking the history of the goddamn country. And they spent months trying to find a new fucker. Like, it makes me very mad, right? I'm gonna calm myself down because this should have been a fucking layup, right?
Yeah.
Not even a layup. Imagine like you're asleep, someone puts a basketball in your hand and then puts the hoop next to you and then right and put like it should have been that easy for the Democrats, but they had put themselves in this absolute shit position where for one didn't deliver on a lot of things they said. Student loan debt, child tax credit, infrastructure was less than it was supposed to be, and that was supposed to be Build Back Better. It was supposed to be a whole lot of social shit. Social shit kind of gets erased from Build Back Better. It is just an injection to corporations. They start to do the chips and signs shit. More just injection for corporations. People are not feeling it, right? Then October 7th, right? Mm-hmm. This is the point that Brandon, and it was October of 2023 that Brandon's numbers start going below. That's when he actually starts pulling lower than Trump. It's October, right? Mm-hmm. And because the youth, and that's only gotten worse, right? Because October wasn't the time they were kicking the shit out of college students on. That wasn't
it has only gotten
March,
worse.
April, May, right?
Well, and the longer the conflict draws out, the more it's like Jesus Christ.
Somebody the more people, yes,
like,
right.
There's probably a lot of people that like in October would have been like, well, they got attacked. They're entitled to some degree of defense and figuring the situation out. But now, getting close to a year later, and we're Gaza is still in complete disarray, and people are like starving and getting like now people are like even people that might have been a little bit like sympathetic with the Israeli cause are kind of like Jesus Christ, somebody can somebody fucking
somebody has to do something.
This is what I've been saying where like that's where it's like Joe Biden is just like fine with this,
Do you think he thought that maybe that would have stuck it out for him? That like, oh, people love Israel or something like that. So
I honestly at this point I have to question how much he does actually know about what's happening in Gaza. I really do.
You think someone just brings him in a piece of paper and they're like, all right, and sign this, and he's just like, yes, sir. And he's like, what's happening over there? Are we winning?
They bring him a paper.
We're winning.
Whether they bring him a paper or a fucking whole tomb of all the documented history, of what's been going on in Palestine, it wouldn't matter, right? Because now we're dealing with Grandpa not wanting to give up his keys. And this is one of these standpoints where he thinks he's right. This is like another one of these issues where he just thinks he's correct, and people can go fuck off himself. And then when he starts going, I met with gold in my ear, right? These are one of these points. And also too, going back to Obama, right, is one of the sticky points where, Netanyahu come in and shitting on the Obama administration. This is one of those things where, like, Biden was pissed at Obama in that situation, not Netanyahu.
Can I ask one more question here? What, in your opinion, right? Because
I don't think I actually got to answer your
I'm
question.
sorry, please go ahead.
Because for one, what do I think the chances of Biden winning? I have no idea, right? And like, and this is really too, honestly, of like, we just have to wait and see what the polling looks like about a week out. And then that's for close races, that's when I give my opinion. You know what I'm saying?
All right.
As of the beginning of October of 2023, and I'd said it multiple times for months and months and months, I'd assumed it's just going to be Biden and Trump, and Biden would win, right? Just based off of normalcy. Right, because like Trump actually represents the taking away of normalcy again, and Biden is the normal, is for normalcy, and that's likely going to win.
Right.
October happens, you lose your fucking faith in any type of youth, which those are the people who usually knock on doors and all this type of shit. They're, so does Project 2025 get people out?
Maybe.
Who knows? And that's where it's like we'll see who is on the ticket. And that's where too is like they're both very old, so you know what I'm saying, who is alive.
Yeah, Trump
on
could
the ticket,
like we're talking about Biden and his mental decline. Trump could have a heart attack tonight.
Oh yeah.
Easily. The other thing I wanted to ask you, and these are just more questions that are getting inspired as we're talking about this. You mentioned a couple statements ago. You talked about how like the Dems are kind of shooting themselves in the foot a little bit here with running Biden the way that they are. Correct me if I'm wrong, but don't they do like not mystery polling, the hypothetical polling, where like when you're being told, they say like, hey, here's Joe Biden, here's Kamala.
What would you do if
But then there's also one that's like mystery Democrat. Like it's almost like, hey, do you want Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, or there's the mystery door that just has a general Democrat, and someone's like it's like a not unlocked character in a video game that you haven't unlocked yet, and they're like, well, can you tell me anything about the person? It's like, nope, I can only tell you that they're a Democrat, and they're doing better. The mystery Democrat, like the mystery
which that's the normal thing,
right?
Because it's a bit of a like political science trickery, although I do think it is a beneficial question to ask, because at the end of the day, it is able to show who isn't liked and why. Right. So if you have a good data sets, right? And this is when I say good data sets, it is having information about the people who are answering the questions, right? And trying to also ask questions about why they answered certain questions a certain way. Okay. And so if you have a good poll, and especially if it deals with issue and candidate, and it also drives to why people are tied to certain issues and then why they're tied to certain candidates. And then you do hey, which candidates are popular? And then you do the nondescript.
Right.
Hey, we're just for the amorphous.
Yeah.
That says, hey, the party has unity in some nondescript, but once you go into the people as hey, I choose nondescript candidate, but I also chose Kamala Harris over Biden, but not Biden over Trump. And then where it might be, this person also said the war on Gaza was important, or maybe this person said, reproductive health care rights is their most important thing, and Biden's just not as good as it in Kamala. So the nondescript candidate, it's not great as far as can any Democrat win, but it is good to tell specific Democrats where they fall off and why.
would it not be in a hypothetical scenario? Like, what would happen if, let's say, something unfortunate happened to Joe Biden, or he made the decision, fortunately, to step down? Would Kamala Harris not like absolutely mop the floor with this election, because like she fits the bill of just a generalized Democrat. In the eyes of the public, she doesn't have as much blood on her hands from Gaza. Her mental acuity is way better, and also there's probably a lot of people that are just like, it's a black woman running, and I support, like, I'm like a progressive that just kind of generally supports that, so I'm riding with her.
Yeah.
I mean, like wouldn't she just like absolutely fucking mop the floor with Trump?
Like, in a perfect world, if she was just mildly more charismatic and not like.
But listen to the charisma that she's up against. We're talking about her charisma versus Joe Biden.
This is where
Joe Biden, she's fucking
I'll say this as of right now.
Sammy Davis Jr. fucking compared to Joe Biden.
As of right now, she's polling ahead, and like it's like once again where it's just like, unless it is shit, because and like honestly too, where it's just like if anyone but Bernie Sanders, it's a toss up.
You think
it's just Bernie Sanders would have crushed. Yes, yeah, like throughout, because like that's the thing is where it's just like. He's too honest about what people are honestly mad about.
Yes.
Okay.
Like it's just people, and like the amount of people that I talk to that were supportive of Bernie and then have gone to so many different winds of the political spectrum. Like,
is that a real thing though? I've heard so many people talk about Bernie bros that went full on like MAGA after like even
look at Joe Rogan, right? Joe Rogan is a person who simultaneously like pretty much it just talks a lot of right-wing talking points,
right.
anti-trans, COVID skeptic, like a million of these things, anti-PC, anti-woke.
Yeah,
really, you hear him talk about Trump, but then when he had Bernie Sanders on, he's like, I would vote for this guy. So there's probably a large contingent of like center-right people that probably like, are very influenced or similar to Joe Rogan in that respect.
Because the things is and this is, like seeing where Trump and Bernie overlap as candidates, right?
Populist people would refer to them
as well, first, not established, right?
Something
not
new.
Establishment.
Something new.
Because this is one of the this is where Bernie as a candidate is very unique, because he's been in government since 1902, but he's also not part of the establishment, and that is a valuable through line, where I know what the fuck I'm doing. And I know it because I've been fighting against the people who you're pissed at right now. And that's like where the third thing was that everybody likes Bernie, or at least up until he started running.
They did.
No, exactly. It is
Michael Perenni's the one guy who in the 90s was like, nah.
Which
Michael Perenni, the whole reason why he stopped being friends with them is because of
NATO
Yugoslavia.
Yeah. Yes, Yugoslavia.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, and this is where this is not me saying, oh, hey, like Bernie's like especially now, with not speaking out about the genocide happening. This is just me doing political analysis, not saying, whatever. I mean, that was for chat, because I know someone's pissed. But at the end of the day, Bernie Sanders, and I think even right now, if the Democrat, and this is where too, if the Democratic Party said no, because like a lot of these people are just, talking fucking mouths. The people who are like blue MAGA right now, what I'm saying? Like I they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They just think that this is how they got to act in order to not have another Trump. That's what I'm believing, that they're just good people who think acting out in childlike ways is the best way to not have Trump be president. And so, fucking hell. But no, I don't know who would win. I have no idea. I don't think anybody knows. And, I do trust polling. I do trust good polling. I think that there's a good way to try, make sure that understanding, understanding margin of error, understanding going off of not national polls, but the swing states, and then having to do the math on your own. These are some of the things where, you can actually start kind of trusting the data, because national polls are worthless. But that's one of the problems is that
Because of, like, the
Biden.
electoral college, right? Like,
Yeah, well, yeah, because Biden. I mean, like, if national polls meant anything, Hillary Clinton, Al Gore, you know, what I'm saying they'd be president. They would have been president. But it just doesn't. It doesn't mean anything. And so, looking at the swing states, like Biden's cooked. That's the thing. It's like it's so crazy that they're standing on, oh hey, we can win nationally, but you actually fucking can't because they are cooked in Wisconsin. They're cooked in Nevada. I mean, hell, some of the polling now, like they're talking about New York being a swing state.
well, Pennsylvania,
That's wild.
Pennsylvania,
It's insane shit, dog. Real insane shit.
When was the last time New York was even a swing state?
Well, and that's
I know
where
New
the
York
thing is
State
too,
has always been kind of like a purple to red state, but like New York
But honestly,
City.
well, Hochul and fucking, god damn it, the mayor. Who's the fucking mayor?
Right now?
Yeah, of New York City.
Eric
Adams. Thank you. I mean, they are ass, dog. I mean, it is, and this is where, I mean, I was talking with Chai. I mean, like, just, you know, we were just chatting about shit, but you know, we're just going back and forth. You know, he's talking about some, you know, some local electeds that are fucking up, and it's just like I can't help but think about how, like, the Democratic Party as a political organization is just so frail and distorted and like nothing. Like they have zero understanding of how like American politics actually works on the ground. And they just think they can project and keep projecting and keep projecting. And like, no, you can't. At some point you need to get feedback. At some point you need to check to see if your projector is actually playing the movie on the screen. Because if not, guess what? You're gonna come out to a real pissed off crowd.
Yeah.
And here we are, right?
Everyone's mad.
No one's happy.
Everybody's real mad.
Good.
So yeah, and I guess now to get to the other point of like who would be better for Palestine, it's a question of whether you take the whole picture versus you dial it down to the American president decision making, right? Because I do think that Biden and his administration are less brutal, less violent. You know, not, I mean, like relative. You know, I'm not saying they're not brutal. I'm not saying they're not violent, right?
But one has to be more violent than the other.
Exactly.
One
if you have to, right? I would say Trump would be more violent, but like Zach Foster, which I'm looking forward to actually, checking out y'all's interview.
Really well.
Thank you.
But
we didn't talk shit about you.
No,
I could have.
Yeah, I talked on Katie Halper though. You hear that, Katie?
It's coming for you. But at the end of the day, who will stand up for Palestinians? Who will come and stand up for change? And
With that question, would Bernie Sanders even do that?
Well, I think most Democrats, and this is where the problem is that, like, this is just a matter of politics.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? You talk about human shields, right? Like, at that point, then Palestinians get used as a human shields against the Republicans, right? Because there'd be a political point.
Right.
Just in the same way, people who are looking for reproductive health care right now, they're used as human shields by the Democratic Party.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Black and brown, poor folks, immigrants at the border. We are the human shields against the, just used for the Democrats to hold power. And if Trump wins, at the very least, that Palestinians then get brought in with the rest of the marginalized groups that the Democrats are quote unquote fighting for. And does that do much? I don't have fucking healthcare, and neither do y'all. So who knows? But what is, and this is where too of like, well, what would be better than not? And this is where I think when you get into outside of focusing on the United States, what does the rest of the world respond to? Do they respond in kind with Joe Biden, and then they're probably looking to go against Trump But now, which countries does that even fall to?
Right.
Maybe that was Italy a few years ago. Maybe that was Sweden and Finland a few years ago, right? Maybe that was Germany a few years ago. But now, as those countries are pushing right, you know, like this is a dude, fucking Keir Starmer, wet noodle ass. He's just gonna go along to get along with everybody. Tells him to sit down and shut the fuck up, Roy. I might. So, but this is where I think with a new Trump, you know, I hate that, like, it seems that things are settling in like first, second, third world, like, you know, dynamics again. But maybe they never actually left that. Yeah, at the end of the day, though, it's like, does China have a better sell as a more stable broker?
Probably,
you know,
people.
I think it's hard to say that they would not.
Right.
You know, it's hard to say that, yeah, you know, China is not able to then make large moves, you know, I mean, just build, you know, hegemonic power. And yeah.
So maybe now would be a good time to transition, because honestly, what motivated this entire conversation was Project 2025, and it sounded like you had some like thoughts on that you wanted to share. But I think I kind of jumped in with the Biden questions.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, like, it was just funny. My mom was texting me. Right, where I'll say this.
Okay, but can I tee you up a little bit? So what I've been hearing, and I haven't investigated a lot, is I've been hearing about Project 2025. Some people on the left are saying like, yo, this is like the ultimate right-wing magnum opus of like disassembling like any kind of social program or protection for minorities and gay people and things like that. And then there's people that are saying that, oh, this is liberal QAnon or something like that. This is all just made up. Like,
I literally had somebody tell me that yesterday.
Can you weigh in on what this actually is, at least in your opinion?
So this is not anything made up, but this is also not anything that I would say people should be. Well, it's like the idea that this is just like QAnon shit. That's absurd. That's ridiculous, right? The problem is, though, it's like, this isn't, you know, Project 2025. This is Project 1776.
Well, didn't I bring that up?
Like,
remember that? I was talking about that. I was like, didn't we just have like a 1619 project, and then like all of a sudden the Republicans were like, actually, it's 1776.
Well, and that's where, though, it's like, that was like a Trump thing, you know, where they would just try and do revisionist history. But I do actually mean the political project of like the United States, you know, essentially. Right. So not necessarily like that specific year, but this, you know, what people are reading in Project 2025. What did my mom call it? The nonsense 25 monster.
Nonsense 25 monster.
These are just, you know, modern day versions of, you know, historical narratives that the Republican Party have been enacting. You know, part of like these, you know, it's because like that's where it's like, this is just nothing new. You know, for me, when people are like, "Oh, have you seen Project 2025?" I'm like, I've been seeing it my whole damn life. What do you, you know, what do you mean?
Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, you know, like the Federalist Society, you know, like like the fact that the Supreme Court looks like it does now, that's Project 1975.
It's pretending like
you know,
there's always been a right-wing agenda to peel back labor laws, peel back protectionism for like, you know, the labor class, peel back like what could be considered as quote unquote woke in schools in terms of like giving like an objective assessment of the American history, or like, you know, affirmative action and all these things. Gay marriage, you know, should marriage even be considered like something that gay people can do? Ben Shapiro, etc. It's like none of this is. There's nothing in there that's particularly new in terms of like what the agenda objective is for the Conservative Party, right? Or the Conservative.
Yeah, no, that's like, I mean, that is, you know, if I have a take on it, it's like, if this is alarming to you, then you weren't recognizing.
You haven't been paying attention.
Yeah, you don't actually recognize the Republican Party for who they are, and that's where it's like a lot of Democrats think like a MAGA was some new thing. You know, if you think MAGA is new, then Project 2025 is going to be very scary for you, because you didn't actually realize, you know, what was going on. But everything that they said, I was, you know, that's right too, was like, as far as their actual goals, Project 2025 is tame. I am working under the framework that those people want me in chains. They want women to be property. They want gay and trans people murdered in the street.
Well, they also want to deport pro-Hamas radicals.
Yeah.
We're on the chopping block.
Yeah, I'm already working on the framework.
Us three, everyone in chat, we will probably be deported to Saudi Arabia at some point.
You know, so if you already have that understanding of where their political project is going, Project 2025 shouldn't be, you know, it's crazy that they can write it down and be a popular, you know, party with that. But that's something that we just need to recognize as our material reality that we need to deal with.
Just point out about it, though, just so everybody's clear, the Project 25 is a specific policy prescription that has been written by the Heritage Foundation think tank. It has not been formally endorsed by any specific politician or political party in the United States outside of the Heritage Foundation, correct?
Yes, but the amount of people who have put in work to it or not
under Trump,
you know, so like as like officially it's like, oh yes, this is a think tank policy proposal that has not officially been endorsed by anybody. But if like knowing who the Heritage Foundation is, you know, knowing the people who had authored and contributed to the thing, like this is just the one of the ways the conservatives, the fascists in the United States have operated in order to, affect the political reality. You know what I'm saying? This is how they organize to change the political reality. And they do this in ways that affects gerrymandering. I mean, you've got Bill Mill, you know, policy like ALEC, A-L-E-C.
Yeah. I remember watching the
people are familiar.
Where the dude literally like says like, you know, are you familiar with like, you know, this what the fuck is it? This like foundation or whatever called ALEC, and he's like, no, I've never heard of it. It's like, okay, because you forgot to edit out the typeface from ALEC on the bill that you're submitting.
Oh right.
Yeah.
Again? Who did that?
I mean, this is where it's like this. ALEC is produced so many. American Legislative Exchange Council. Thank you, Russ. But it's just a moneyed group that is, you know, that pressures politics from one of the myriad routes, right? Because like Federalist Society, literally grow your own, you know, federal judge. That's what the Federalist Society started out as, and so it's always been, and that it works. It's been working. You know, what is it? Alito, Kavanaugh, and John Roberts. All three of those motherfuckers used to be lawyers for Bush and Cheney at some point in time.
Really? Even Kavanaugh?
Yeah, dog. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Right? So, like, this is where it's just like, if you talk about Project 2025, motherfucker, you're late. You're late to the game. They've been doing this for a while now.
Well, that's why, like I was saying to my wife, I'm like,
I'm sorry, I gotta let Winston out.
That's all good. Like, that's why I was saying to my wife last night, that saying like, you know, fucking, like, well, they want to like get rid of unions. Like, yeah, like Republicans have wanted to do for the last 50 years.
50 years. I mean, well, not just Republicans, but the conservatives have been trying to effectively peel back labor legislation since organized labor was a thing.
Yeah. Like, you know, but you get what I'm saying, though, that like they really started to be able to accomplish that stuff like under Reagan, which if I'm 35 now, like, yeah, I guess 50, like 10, 15, 20-ish years before I was born, you know, I think Reagan was president, right?
The 80s, he was president.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Manticore, because like that's where it's just like I forget a lot of like how detailed it gets, but like like literally on the, you know, Bush v. Gore case. Although I think Alito was already on the Supreme Court, right? At that point,
I think so.
Yeah. So I think Alito had worked with him before, but I think it was Chief Justice Roberts and Kavanaugh. They were actually on the team. So yeah, you know, this is conservatism in America, right? This is, you know, the like the elements of, you know, the first, you know, colonizers to fucking come, you know, these states and were using Christianity to, you know, enslave people, murder indigenous people and take their land and say, you know, God wanted us to. These are the remnants of that, you know, faction of the, you know, myriad of ideologies that had, you know, started this political project. And I don't want to say just political project to sanitize anything, you know, just, you know, it's just like, I gotta be quick, you know.
Political cabal.
Yeah, you know,
a regime, if you will.
Political regime. Yeah. But no, that's how I see it. But you gotta like zoom out, you know, and really just like ask what is actually happening, what has happened before, you know, and is this a new thing or is this a long line of, you know, of brokering of power, right? Because like this is the people willing to fight, you know, like what are the actual structures that are playing on one another. And at this point you can see Democrats win elections but Republicans and conservatives win.
Okay, right, I see what you're saying. Like behind they're still making making inroads.
Who was president when Roe v. Wade got overturned?
Joseph Biden was
Joseph Robinette Byron.
Does Joseph Biden have the power to appoint new Supreme Court justices?
No, and listen, I'm very bad on my civics.
Yes.
He does not, because there's not room, right? There has to be a vacancy for him to do it.
Constitutionally, what's the limit of Supreme Court justices?
I don't know. It seems like they just
like, there's not even like a Supreme Court in the Constitution.
There can't be one, is there? There can't be as the limit.
There's no limit.
There's no limit.
There's no limit. And who has the authority to appoint Supreme Court justices?
Wait, but is there not a finite amount of judges that they can have? Like, is there
Look
not?
it up.
No.
You could go. If it's in the Constitution,
you could
go
make
find
all
it.
of us Supreme Court judges right now. I'm not
Are you
even
serious?
fucking around.
I mean, well,
like,
that's
legally
what
we could do that.
He could appoint us.
Can someone
appoint us all?
Right.
Whether we make it through the
Selection hearing.
the selection of the Senate, that's a whole other thing.
And how do you pack the court? Like, I thought there was a whole thing where Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, there's a vacancy now because she's gone." Like, I thought there was like a liquor license in a town. You know about liquor licenses?
This is more of like the norms. Right? These are norms
It's like
that have been
Jimmy
adopted.
Carter having to sell his fucking peanut farm, but like Donald Trump just saying like, I'm not doing that.
All of his fucking
Exactly. Right?
Yeah.
Guidelines.
I'm not doing that.
Guidelines and vibes at the time.
You understand the liquor store, the liquor license analogy I'm making, right?
Yeah.
They don't just make new liquor licenses. Like a place, like a bar, has to like close down for a new one to be able to.
There's like only a finite amount of them allowed within a given.
Well, I thought there was only like 12.
So imagine.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, imagine if the liquor license rule was just something everybody thought was real, right? I mean, like legitimately. Like imagine just all of the businesses just, I can't get a new liquor license until Jimmy's closed down.
Jimmy's.
And like no government employee said that shit. No one stopped you from submitting the application, but you just waited until Jimmy closed down.
Yeah.
Before you send it. And that's how, like, that's what really is.
Okay.
And because it was 6, they expanded it to 9. That was like 18 some shit.
Okay.
The next time it even gets brought up is during New Deal era, where the Supreme Court was weaponizing itself against like the policies
of
that
FDR?
that the FDR and the Democrats were passing, right?
Oh wow.
And FDR starts saying, hey, he just starts shopping around of new judges to add to the Supreme Court. And then next thing you know, the Supreme Court says, then they start letting policy through and they start, dropping shit and you actually start seeing changes and shit. Elizabeth Warren talks about it. She's been talking about it. Pete Buttigieg, he talked about it on the campaign trail. This is where too is like, he actually said type of shit of like court packing. Elizabeth Warren said the same thing. And Joe Biden said, well, the institution is, sacred and sacrosanct and blah, 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 blah. And we can't do this and that or other. We'll have a commission to see where the ethics and da, 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 da. And it's all a whole bunch of bullshit and nonsense. At the end of the day, yes, Joe Biden could have appointed, and this is where too of like, even to start talking about it, right?
Mhm.
This is something that they are playing politics. This is where as soon as the draft for the Roe v. Wade overturn released, Joe Biden and the administration, they should have started interviewing new judges and saying, we're going to make it 15 because 9 isn't working.
No.
So everything that I hear, like the things that I hear from like the mainstream is like, oh, they packed the court. And then also like I heard like at the end of someone's term, there was a bunch of like very stubborn Supreme Court judges that should have like stepped down or something like that so that new ones could be appointed and have more of a...
Oh, so yeah, RBG.
But my question is that all just because of an adherence to this somewhat arbitrary and non-binding amount? Like we have to first accept that there's a finite amount of Supreme Court justices, but if we don't believe that, like first of all, you're saying that that's not binding and arbitrary, so literally there's no bearing on that. It's only
there is nowhere written in the Constitution which delineates how the Supreme Court is not only structured, but also, you know, how judges are put onto the court. There's no rule says a dog can't play basketball, and there's no rule saying that the Supreme Court has to have 9 people. There's nothing. Right. When it went from 6 to 9 or 5 to 9, whatever the fuck, there was no rule change. There was just more judges appointed. Senate passed them through. That's it.
Interesting. Okay.
So they never had to do anything. Joe Biden could have appointed, like, that's where the thing is. The overturning of Roe v. Wade never had to happen. The overturning of Chevron never had to happen. These things did not even have to happen. He's been there for damn near 4 years now, and Roe was 2 years ago. None of these things had to happen.
Would you mind, and I'm sorry, I'm just taking you down a whole road here. Can you explain the Chevron thing to me? Because I know what just occurred.
Yeah.
Like I have no reference of what the actual Chevron case is. Yeah. I've heard the Chevron case itself referenced, but I haven't looked into actually what happened and what the actual legislation was.
Yeah, and I'll say for one, there's like, I don't want to say there's like a level of fear. Like there's some, like ignorance as far as like what's being talked about. But specifically, it has to deal with federal agencies. Okay. So there's a lot of state agencies that
FDA, stuff like that.
EPA, FDA, federal regulators.
Right. Okay.
They do a lot of important shit, a whole lot, right? Right. There are a good amount of state and local regulations that corporations still have to follow.
Right.
So there's a chance, so basically, like, not everything's going to fall apart overnight, I guess is like all I'm going to say. However, this is really bad. So what the Chevron doctrine did, or at least, and this is where too of like, when you say Chevron, it's a court case. The Supreme Court, they don't make law, right? They make rulings off of existing law. And it's two different things. And this is really shit. Like, it gets shitty.
No, but that's the thing is, like, in all these things, like, if you know what it actually comes down to these kind of deliberations, what it is you make cases based on precedent. Like, you have to look back into the history of these. Say, okay, well, in Brown versus the Board of Education, I'm just bringing up the only like verse thing that I can think of in my head.
Yeah.
This was a precedent that was established there, and therefore it should stand to reason that we follow a similar logic in this case.
Yes.
That's how
because and this is where, and there's like, oh hey, like they don't make it, they interpret, right? Mm-hmm. They're supposed to interpret, and this is where, what is the point of a court when there is a discrepancy between actors, right, over the law, right? And this is civil law is just discrepancies between two actors.
Two consenting adults.
That's what we hope. We know. Well, yeah, you got a discrepancy between these two actors, and who is in a place to interpret who is correct.
Right.
Who has the word you correct. Judge, right? So when you've got something like Chevron, you starts with a case in which, like, the company, fucking Chevron is saying this organization within the government is instituting a law onto us, a law that is not written, right?
Okay.
And the court decides and says, no, the regulators within the law, or at least as the law was interpreted up until like a few weeks ago,
Right.
the legislator, the people who do write the laws, gave the authority to the federal regulators to enact the law in the best way they saw fit.
Right.
Okay? So for the Chevron doctrine was a court case that it was interpreted that the law that was written from the legislator gave the authority to regulators to institute certain details as to pertain to the actual regulations that the lawmakers wrote, right? And when they overturned that, they said, actually, no. When it comes to discrepancies of the law, you can't just say the regulators know better. Who deals with discrepancies in the law?
The Supreme Court?
Judges.
Okay.
Well, not just this is essentially giving that power to the courts.
Judges of the Supreme Court?
Well, it all start at lower level courts based off of like president or not president, based off of jurisdiction and whichever court system has like authority and all that type of shit.
So what exactly is it that Chevron did? What was the specific city? I understand that there's like this discussion of like where the actual authority begins in terms of the federal regulatory agencies and where it ends and who is the one that actually gets to decide things. But what did Chevron do that like evoked this? Which federal agency and what were they trying to do to Chevron that was the catalyst of this whole situation?
It just had to deal with having like regulations over like basically over like toxins and like manufacturing like
pollution and shit.
Pollution,
like that.
Yeah, all that
like
type of shit.
Waste, like how you get rid of your waste in an ethical way, and
and who gets to decide what the law actually is? Because this is where too of like where it comes and like more of the basic say, and even like looking at this thing, like the river that's going, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm the legislator.
Okay.
Right.
I write the laws. I have the authority to say what is law. I write a law and I say, Johnny, make sure the river is clean.
Yeah.
Johnny is a river scientist. He knows all about water. He knows all about cleaning shit, right?
Trout. He knows about trout.
I'm a lawyer. I know about law,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I make a law and I say, Johnny, clean the fucking river, motherfucker, right? You get the authority to clean the river.
And you're like, yeah, the river's all brown and shit like that. Can you fucking
right?
clean it?
And this is where Pat...
Johnny's like, it's supposed to be brown. It's supposed to be brown.
Yeah, I know this river. It's brown. The water brown.
Johnny, you're a good scientist. You want good, clean water. But Pat, you are a businessman, okay?
Yeah.
And your business is upriver, and at some point in time, we start seeing the water turn brown. And Johnny, who is legally supposed to, there's a law that says, Johnny, keep the river clean.
Yes.
Johnny sees brown water, river's not clean. First thing Johnny does is say, what the fuck is this?
What the fuck is this?
Johnny's a scientist. We got to figure out what the hell is this brown liquid.
Right? Who the fuck is he?
He's the EPA. Johnny's the EPA right now.
I know, but I'm just saying.
Okay.
Oh, okay. But
I was trying to act. I'm sorry.
You act when I'll give you your role. Okay. I'll give you your role. All right. So Johnny figures out. It's like, hey, what the hell is this brown shit in the water? Right.
Yeah.
And then as Johnny does his science stuff and realizes there's a doo-doo factory up the river.
It's doo-doo.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Right.
These are
and then he goes to the doo-doo factory owner, Pat. That's you.
Hey, I can help you.
Can you stop
pooing in the river?
Stop putting your doo-doo in the river, right? and you say I'm allowed, like, hey, I've got all my licensing,
It's my
I've got all my
property.
certifications.
It's like,
My
God,
property.
Right.
It's my right and it's my property. I've got to make a doo-doo, and some of the runoff is the to let you know. So Johnny, though, this is where Chevron comes into play.
Okay.
Is Johnny, as the person who has been given legal authority to make sure the water's clean, is Johnny allowed to say, stop dumping your shit in the river? Or does that have to go to a court, right?
Well,
Because as of right now, Johnny, as the expert in what is clean water, is not the legal authority as to what keeps the water clean.
so, for example, like the way that I just think about it is like, so, let's just say like, let's talk about a hypothetical situation where cops actually are experts of the law, meaning that they get to drive around in a car with lights on it and a little notepad and handcuffs, and they see you doing a crime. They cannot find you guilty of a crime or what they suspect to be a crime. They cannot find you guilty of that crime. However, they do have the authority to impose what they believe to be the rule of law on you and say you have to show up to a court date where it's actually going to be legislated. I'm not finding you guilty, but however, I believe I witnessed you doing this. Now, what is the difference between Johnny being recognized as an expert in the cleanliness of rivers to issue a citation that will ultimately end up in a court to determine whether they're guilty or not?
Because police have only the authority to detain you if they have a reasonable suspicion that you've actually committed a crime.
Right.
That's all they have.
Right.
And then
But
that actually
why
goes.
can't Johnny have the reasonable suspicion that I'm polluting the lake and thus be able
Well,
to
and that's, I guess,
that I can
Chevron
dispute
did
in
that.
court?
Yeah. I guess. Well, and not only that though, is that Chevron did a little bit more, right? It would let like Johnny be judge, jury, and executioner, in this sense. But like
Johnny just shoots me.
That's right. No, I agree with this. This is how it should be.
But it's a very different scenario when the responsibility is keep the water clean versus you are the arbiter of deciding what is safe in our city's streets. The actions of human beings.
I hate to say it, but I feel like it's not that different. I feel like one person determines is as an expert of the quote unquote civil law, and another person is quote unquote the expert on cleanliness of rivers, and it's up to that person to arbitrate if someone has broken the law or not. However, it's not up to them to find them guilty, and if that person does not want to pay the fine or change it, they can take that up to the court and then a judge.
I agree. As far as the way the authority flows, it's very similar. But the reason why it's different is because the water is a necessity of the citizenry, and the cops are dealing with the citizenry itself.
I don't know. I think that
if the water were people, then you wouldn't be able to dump shit on the people as the poo factory person, right?
I don't understand why we can't give the EPA the same role as an environmental Judge Dredd, where it's just
okay, I'm sorry, I just had an idea. What about just like for what Johnny just said? What about the what's the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Fire? The
ATF. Yeah.
The ATF
they tear
is a
gas
federal
and burn
organization.
people alive all the time.
The ATF
why can't
has
EPA do that?
That's a federal organization, right? That has the power to arrest people.
Yeah. Why can't the EPA have the same armory as the ATF, right?
Well, yeah, and I would say because the
tanks into ExxonMobil and just start tear gassing people. And, a fire, another fire. I don't know how this keeps happening.
The main point that you're missing, right, is that the ATF is dealing with human beings, which is dispensable, right?
Okay.
Yeah, but companies are
friend. No, the companies are more important than people. That's what I'm saying. They're not just they can spend money in elections like people, but they actually have more rights than people and more protections from the law than most humans. So,
well, I guess so. For example, a cop can enforce if I litter, right?
Wait, what?
Yeah, if
I litter,
unload,
if I go to Taco Bell and I spend $50 at Taco Bell and I take the trash and I throw it on the ground, a cop can issue me a citation, right?
I mean, sure, yeah, depending on
But then why can't they issue a citation if somebody's polluting a river? It's littering just on a grand scale.
Because that's where, because he did, like, the cop doesn't have authority to regulate water.
I know, but Johnny does. He knows the water. He's a water.
Oh no, that's where you like, yeah, no, that's what the EPA did. Like, that's literally what they did. Like, they were like, because like they couldn't arrest anybody, but it would just be a series of like regulations that are set, and then a series of fines if you don't meet the regulations. That was like literally it. They weren't throwing nobody in jail, but it was just the fines.
How come we can't get one person in there that's just like, I interpret this as like the EPA should be like, you know, the judge, jury, and executioner, right? Of like protecting, like, you know, the
we'd have cleaner water,
infrastructure of like this country.
Yeah, so the scientists in this world were, you know what I'm saying, about that life, you know what I'm saying, we'd be in a much healthier world.
Why can't it just be like China, where if like some billionaire pollutes a fucking river, we fucking put him up in front of on a podium where he just for 6 hours straight has to apologize to every single person in the fucking town, and they can spit on him and slap him, and then after 8 hours of that treatment, he can go back and he can try one more time to run his fucking factory.
We're gonna sick some, like, you know, dogs on him, right, and hunt him through like the woods or something like that.
It's because of fucking Project 7076. That's why. We have yet to rectify the project. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Oh God! Wait. Okay. So ultimately, back in it was 1984. Was it George Orwell 1984 when the?
I thought it was 1989.
Was it George Orwell 18?
Was it George Orwell? Was it?
1984.
Is George Orwell the Rosebud guy, or is he the Animal Book guy?
He's both.
I have no idea where this is going.
Okay. No, I guess I was just trying to say, so would you say that the Chevron case was like a win for business at that time? Like that was a...
No.
It was the opposite.
When the Chevron case was originally decided, it was a win. It was a loss for business.
But now it's being overturned?
Now, yes. So now, yeah. So that's where basically for the past, I mean, fuck.
Holy shit. My dog, L's left hook.
Thank you.
Five gifted subs. Thank you so much
for interrupting me.
We get so few subs this day that those five is enough.
We have to interrupt you.
That's enough to put us on a hype train. We're in a level 2 hype train already because Twitch feels bad for us. I'll put the mask on. You down for some music, Marcus, to give us a break?
With that, while you're getting everything set up, you know, as far as the music, like that's the difference though, is oh well, you can't put on the mask without your headphones.
I'm listening. It's okay, go ahead. I hear you.
Yeah,
can you put on the mask with your headphones and everything? Just do it.
It's already done.
No, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I just explained it. So
essentially that was trying to make friends with somebody who's depriving you of your rights. They're not your friends. No, they're your enemies. Don't treat them like that and fight them, and you'll get your freedom. My repertoire is USSR. Be a low style, be a low style, got thrown out the car. Rise for subversive plots. They'll call you an extremist or subversive or red radical. Rise for subversive plots. Red radical. And fight them. Capitalism and democracy. Capitalism and democracy are not synonymous. We group us up like ants in a colony. Organize the wealth into a socialist economy. A way of life based off the common needs. And all my comrades is ready, we can spread the scene. And all my comrades is ready, we can spread the scene. And all my comrades is ready, we can spread